Hey everyone, and thank you so much for clicking on this video. My name is Justin, and we are slowly inching our way back to the return of NHL hockey for another season. Yesterday kicked off the Toronto Maple Leafs, I think, charity golf tournament, and that was the predecessor towards training camp opening this week. So hockey is coming back, content is going to start picking up. And today I wanted to hop on and talk about what excites me the most about this year's team. Now, I've done this video a couple times in the past. I'm going to go through some things that makes me really excited for the team this year. And in another video, I'll go over some things that make me a little bit more, reserved or some concerns with the team. But for the most part, things are positive going into this year, which is why I wanted to start off with the reasons why I am very, very excited to get going for this year's season for the Leafs. Number one, it's the additions that the team has made this offseason. I went over a little bit of a review during free agency about my thoughts on who we've added to this team, and it started off a little bit slow with, the Ryan Reaves signing, which was kind of a mystery, especially at the term and the number of years. But I do like the addition there. And then you got John Klingberg for a year, which was, a step in the right direction. And I'm actually a lot more optimistic about him than most people are. But it didn't come to full fruition until we signed Tyler Bertuzzi and Max Domi, along with some other supporting cast players in free agency. But those are the big four additions on this team. And they really get me excited. I think that the team got a little bit more physical, much more grit. Obviously, we know that Ryan Reaves brings that, but the other three, they're no joke with it either. And it doesn't really do much to bring one guy in to do one specific thing and bring some toughness to the team. One guy isn't going to change it. It's going to take an army, a group, a culture change. And by bringing in four guys that have the same kind of mentality, the same kind of assets, it can only bring a much tougher mentality for the rest of the team and hopefully start to change that culture. So that's really exciting, not to mention a ton of skill, and it really, really rounds out our depth. I made the analogy early in the offseason about if you were to compare the players that left the Toronto Maple Leafs this year in free agency, excluding the group that we got acquired at the trade deadline, those being like Ryan O'Reilly and Luke Schenn. But if you were to take the players that we lost from the existing roster going into last season, I'm talking about the likes of Alex Kerfoot, Justin Holl, Michael Bunting, not to discredit those players, but we picked up, I think, better versions of each of those guys in the likes of John Klingberg, Tyler Bertuzzi, and Max Domi. So the additions this year, I think, really round out the team a lot better than we had last year, and I'm really, really excited to see them in Leafs uniforms. I think Tyler Bertuzzi is going to be a fantastic offensive threat, and Max Domi, it just feels right for the soul, honestly. It makes me happy that he's a Toronto Maple Leaf. So that's reason number one why I'm really excited for this year. And kind of piggybacking on that, because two of the big additions that we had this year were in this position, but another reason to be optimistic is our left wing depth, because honestly, I've said it in videos in the past, and I know some people think I'm crazy for saying it, but over the last number of years, not just last year, but number of years, if you were to ask me, what is the Toronto Maple Leafs' biggest weakness, I would have always said our left wing. It's not our goaltending. It's not our defense, at least in my opinion, and I stay strong on this. It was our left wing spot. When you think after JVR, when the group started coming together, we had a veteran, Patrick Marleau. We brought up Zach Hyman, who ended up doing really, really well in the position. But did anybody really expect Zach Hyman to be like a star first or second line winger, especially when he started on the team? And then he leaves and we got Michael Bunting, a guy that, again, he fit the role really well and actually fit in with the line. But is he like a true number one forward on most teams? No. And so if you think of that and then think of the left wing that we have lined up for this season with Tyler Bertuzzi, a proven 30-goal scorer in the NHL on a team that, he wasn't carried by other guys. He had to do a lot of lifting himself. He can drive a line and he's got grit. But he's a fantastic skill forward. Then you support him with Matthew Knies, the emergence that we saw last year. Obviously, he's ready in the NHL. He proved that in the playoffs in the last final 3 games of last year's season. Unfortunately, got knocked out with that concussion of the series. But Really excited to see what he can do in a full season. And then we've got Max Domi, who can play center and right wing, yes, but probably will be on that left wing spot and could easily slot in on either of those first two lines with either Matthews and Marner, who he's used to playing with back in his London days, or I think he would go very well with Tavares and Nylander as well. And then to round it all out, you either got a depth guy like a Bobby McMann, or hopefully, if everything goes right and he can actually stay healthy this year, Nick Robertson could be set to have his actual breakout season in the NHL. You never know, and it would be in a sheltered fourth line just because the lineup ahead of him is just so strong that that's only where we can see him slotting in, and that's only a positive thing to see, that you've got depth, you've got a supporting cast, you've got people that can move around the lineup. But regardless, left wing, it's been an issue of ours in the past. We've lacked scoring, especially in the playoffs. People always seem to point out the goaltending and the defense. It hasn't been. It's been 7 straight games with 2 goals. Last year, that's what the story was. It's always been a lack of depth scoring. And this year, we improved our left wing, which means we've improved our depth scoring. So really excited to see that. Item number 3, I'm excited to see a lot of young talent stepping in this year. So we've got our roster pretty much set with, veteran guys that have been in the league and probably returning from last year's roster as well. But if anybody goes down, if anybody, isn't playing to the standard of this team, or if we make some moves, I have no concerns with our supporting cast of young talent that's ready to take a step into the NHL. I'm thinking the likes of Pontus Holmberg, who only got extremely rave comments from his peers on the team and the coaching staff. He's clearly capable of taking a fourth or third line center spot, and he's just waiting in the weeds to step exactly into that role. We've got Bobby McMann, we've got Nick Abruzzese, we've got obviously Matthew Knies and his progress that we saw last year. We got Connor Timmins, who really was impressive in his short tenure on the Leafs last year until he obviously took his time in conditioning and development, but I think he's ready to take a step into the lineup. We got Topi Niemela, who's just waiting to get some NHL action under his belt. We've got a lot of young talent, and of course, not to miss Joseph Woll as well. We got a small taste of what he's capable of last year, so I'm excited to see what he can do in a bigger role, sharing the net with Ilya Samsonov this year. But in all, we got a lot of young talent, people that have played on the Marlies or around the world in the past that are ready and itching to take a step into the NHL. And this year, it could just be the year that we see another Leaf take a breakout role and stick on the team for the future and the years to come. So we'll see what happens there, but a lot more young talent and a lot more prospects than I think a lot of people give the Leafs enough credit for. And lastly, take a cheap shot all you want. I mean, it is pathetic for me to say, and I know how the optics are of me saying this, but the Leafs did win a round last year, and that undoubtedly is objectively a step forward. Now, you could argue that it wasn't any progress. Seeing the way that they did get eliminated going down 3-0 in the series is just unacceptable, and we all know that. We've talked about it ad nauseum, but the fact that they did win a round shows that maybe the culture around this team is shifting. Maybe these guys are learning what it takes to win. Maybe that positivity and optimism from last year's run can bleed into this year. You never know what could happen, but the standard is now set. For years, maybe these guys in their head had set the standard in their mind that, getting to the playoffs is all that's necessary and going for a good fight in the first round. And now they're not going to settle for anything less than winning a first round, because if they don't succeed and don't win a first round, well, then it's a failure, even more so, because it's a step backwards from last year. So these guys have their standards set, and they're going to keep pushing to at least get that first round win and then go from there and hopefully get a second, third, and fourth. Of course, we want to win the Stanley Cup. And I know, again, it's embarrassing kind of going through this, that, winning a round is such a big feat, but it is a step forwards, and hopefully, again, is a motivating factor for this group to continue pushing and continuing getting better and getting deeper and taking longer playoff runs this year. So while it's small progress, it is progress nonetheless, and it's something to be excited for this year, hopefully a motivating factor for them. So those are just 4 things. I mean, I'm super excited for this season. I actually am more positive going into this year than the last few years. I think that the changes that we've made are really exciting. There's a new, fresh kind of perspective with this team, with Brad Treliving stepping in. And don't get me wrong, I'm a big Dubas supporter even to this day. I really like what he did with the team, but having a new fresh face in charge of the team and taking a new direction is definitely something to be excited for as well. So I'm looking forward to this year. I want to keep the comments positive for this video. So let me know down below, what are you excited for this year? What are you optimistic for? Yes, I will go through some things that are a little bit concerning for me for the next video, but in the meantime, let's stay positive, let's stay excited. Leafs hockey just around the corner. The NHL is coming back. I cannot wait, and I will see you in the next video.